that it doesn't matter what part of the Americas you're from, whether you're from Argentina, or whether you're from Canada, or whether you're from the United States, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Central America. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter where you were born. We're Americans. We're part of the Americas region, and we are Nu Skin, right? Now, you've arrived here in Utah at a pretty special time. I have to say, you couldn't have asked for better weather. This is the most beautiful time of the year. Would you not agree? I mean, if any of you have taken some side trips up into the mountains, you begin to understand why Utah's beautiful in the fall. So on Saturday, October 4th, at around 2:30 in the afternoon, I started to go out for a bike ride to the top of Squaw Peak, a 4.5-mile ride from the bottom to the top, 20 miles from my house. And I've ridden my bike up this mountain road dozens of times a year for over 2 decades. I've ridden in 100+ degree temperature, and I've ridden in blowing snow. I particularly like riding in the fall, when the scrub up and the leaves are stunningly colored. Because I think some of you have seen those postings on my Facebook. It's just amazing. I've ridden my bike up to the summit so many times that I know every crack in the road. This is where I go to think about the Nu Skin business. Just like Truman on his motorcycle yesterday talking about going up into the mountains, this is where I go to meditate, to think about Nu Skin. Now, as I ride up Squaw Peak every year, and I've often thought that this will be my gauge of old age, because the time I can't make it to the top will be the time I finally say, you know what, I'm too old to do this stuff. But it's going to be decades from now, just so you know. Now, here's why I'm sharing this with you. I learned a lesson that afternoon when I was riding to the summit. See, 2 weeks earlier, on the last day of summer, I decided late after work to ride to the top of Squaw Peak. And when I arrived at the base of the mountain, I realized that if I pushed it, I could catch a picture of the last sunset of summer of 2014. As I passed mile 1, and I know exactly where it is, I realized that the sun was setting a whole lot faster than I was riding. And if I was going to make it to the top, I needed to push it. So I pushed my gears down, and I don't do that very often because my legs are already on fire, my lungs are burning, I can hear my heart beating in my head. But I had a defined goal. I needed to get to the top of that mountain before sunset. And when I arrived at the summit, I got a few cheers from the people who'd passed me in their cars on the way up. Now, I do make a point to make sure that they see my white hair and my Nu Skin jersey. And as you can see from this picture, it was definitely worth the extra effort, because I was able to take one of those unforgettable photos of the last sunset of 2014, summer of 2014. Obviously, we've got a few more to go here. So on my ride on October 4th, here's what I learned. I noticed that when I got to the top of Squaw Peak, I was 5 minutes slower than I had been on the day I went up to catch the last sunset of the summer of 2014. And I said to myself in this mind-freakish sort of way that I think all the time, why was I slower? Why? And I realized at that moment that I wasn't chasing anything. I'd lost all sense of urgency. And this is how my mind works. You see, when I fail to set a goal or make a commitment without a defined objective and without a sense of urgency, then I slowly begin to put up barriers that cause me to slow down, to take a more laid-back approach, or sometimes, sadly, to even consider giving up. Now, every time I ride up Squaw Peak, my legs burn, and my lungs, I'm just gasping for air. I can feel my heart in my temple. And it's at these moments when I start to get that voice in my head that says, you know what, nobody cares if you go to the summit. Why don't you just turn around? But here's when the fight in me really comes out. Because sure, no one would know. No one would know if I turned around because nobody's riding up the hill with me. But you know who would care? Me. I care. Because I set a goal that I'm going to make it to the top, and that's my measure of success. Now, I've learned in 26 years that self-talk is real. And this has been an important life lesson for me. I did bring my own water. For the last 26 years, I've had the incredible blessing to be your partner. And over those years, I've learned that all of us occasionally put up barriers. Sometimes we don't believe it can be done, or at least we convince ourselves that it can't be done. And what I've seen is that sometimes we can talk ourselves out of some of the best things in life, like qualifying for a success trip or a team elite trip, or accomplishing a major milestone. For me, and for all of the team, those account managers you saw up here, Blake, Steve, Sandy, the founders of the company, there is nothing better for us to watch you be on a success trip, knowing how hard you've worked to get there. So just know that every trip will always be an experience of a lifetime. And most importantly, it will always be a reward for your hard work. Now, I just have to show you something fun in my own sort of weird way. It's kind of like the joy you feel when you walk into the hotel room on your success trip and you kind of pinch yourself because you can't believe how beautiful the room is and the milestone you've accomplished. And for me, this is fun. In that weird sort of way, this is me coming down the mountain after I just climbed, going 45 miles an hour, get a little sense for what I do. My wife hasn't seen this video. Neither has my life insurance agent. This is the first time. Hello? Working, there we go. This is the first time I've come down with a GoPro. I'll never do that again. Now, I almost got killed right here. I know. I had to make sure the mic was working for that moment right there. Because honestly, I wasn't expecting that car. It takes about 10 minutes to go from top to bottom. It takes me 39 to 45 minutes, depending upon how I feel, to go from top to bottom. But that moment was the hairiest moment I've had ever. And it was captured on GoPro. Now, one of the great lessons I've learned in my experience with Nu Skin is that setting goals and taking action are two of the critical aspects of achieving anything in life, and particularly success with Nu Skin. But I believe that before you set a goal, you have to know in your heart and in your mind that with hard work, it is humanly possible to achieve it. You have to believe it can be done. And here's an example of what I mean. Until May 6, 1954, no one had even contemplated that it was humanly possible to run the mile in less than 4 minutes. That would mean that a runner would have to run 16 miles an hour for 4 straight minutes. In 1954, this was like putting a man on the moon. And I love stories of people who set a new bar for others to follow, and that's exactly what Sir Roger Bannister did. Now, we contacted him 2 weeks ago. Sent him a message. We were going to fly over to London. We were going to fly him here just to see if he would come and share his experience. He sent us a message back and just said, you know, I would love to be with you. I'm 92 years old, and unfortunately I can't travel anymore. But thanks to YouTube, we can relive that moment and listen. Just listen to what he says about what he accomplished.